116 million in 1 year. How Nathan Morgan French cracked Facebook ads and mortgages. This episode is really interesting, especially for me as a guy who doesn't run Facebook ads anymore. But Nathan is a mortgage broker based out of New Zealand. And on this episode, he shares how he was able to build his business to 116 million in production in just over a year. And then just for a baseline, the average mortgage broker in New Zealand is doing about 20 million a year. So it's a little higher than in Canada. But in any case, it's still 5-6 times the average broker, which is exceptional. So a couple highlights from this, how he uses Facebook ads. He's got a background in telecom, building businesses, Facebook ads to drive the leads to his business. He changed his discovery call to a 1-hour build the application to increase conversions, and then how he cloned himself with a new business partner that's helped him scale. I think you're going to find this episode very interesting and intriguing like I did. Hey, I'm Scott Beckford. This is I Love Mortgage Brokering Podcast, and each week we bring you episodes to help you in your mortgage business. This is a fun episode. Before we jump into this, I want to give a shout out to Omwell, our sponsor. Omwell is an amazing tool for Canadian brokers. Creates these reports that get sent to the client. They have a 60 to 70% open rate, allows the client to track their buying power, their home equity, and it also has a new feature that lets you find opportunities in the database. So it looks for places where there's the interest rates out of sync or there's opportunity for a refinance, and then it'll notify you and give you basically the scripting to send to the client. Check them out at omwell.ca and check out this episode with Nathan. Hey, Nathan, welcome to the show.
Hey, mate. Thank you very much for having me.
Very excited to chat with you. You've built a very big business quickly in a way that I have not seen happen very often. And so I have many questions for you, which we're going to get to. But before I even get into that, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into mortgages.
Yeah, interesting. So I started my career in sales, telemarketing, and selling phone and internet services to people. And then I started a business doing that in Australia, built and sold that business, took about a year off, maybe spent 3 months of that year listening to your podcast religiously. Once I'd figured out that I wanted to start a mortgage brokerage. So how did I decide to start a mortgage brokerage? I did that whole Ikigai framework with the Venn diagram, 4 circles, what you're interested in, what makes you money, what you're good at. Again, I can't remember the last one. Maybe what brings contribution to society. And those 4 seem to sort of intersect on like a mortgage brokerage. So that's how
that landed in the mortgage broker. So then you decided, okay, I'm going to be a mortgage broker. What was your biggest lesson? You had a telecom company for 9 years. What was your biggest lesson from that you've applied to your mortgage business?
Yeah, probably focusing on one thing. Actually, definitely focusing on one thing. So not getting distracted. I'm very ADHD. And I can see an opportunity everywhere, and then I get distracted by that opportunity, chase that one rather than just like focusing on one thing.
Right. Okay. So what is something you've said no to recently that you can think of that, and I'm really getting into the weeds here, but I think it's good.
No, it's good. It's good. One big thing that I've consciously said no to is launching insurance. My plan, it's probably slightly different market in New Zealand compared to Canada, but in New Zealand, it's very common for people to have like a mortgage brokerage, an insurance brokerage, and like a KiwiSaver brokerage, which is like retirement investment funds. And so very early on, I knew that I thought that I wanted to do those 3 things. And I've now sort of taken the insurance one off the table. I will still do the KiwiSaver one eventually. But like on that note, specifically something I said no to, quite successful guy in the industry, exited a insurance and like wealth business. So insurance and investments business, maybe say like 3 years ago, and he's been working for another company, or the company he sold to actually, and now he's deciding he's about to go do his next thing, and he kind of approached me to build that here, like the Good Broker Wealth. And it is a great idea, but it's a distraction. And so there's a couple of reasons I said no to that deal, but that's a large reason, is because it's just a distraction from like being a really good mortgage brokerage.
Right. So you technically, if I'm translating this for our Canadian audience, is that you have 3 possible income streams. What percentage of brokers in New Zealand that are doing your volume would have 3 of those income streams going?
I don't actually know the percentage, but if just deals, like a lot of them.
A lot of them would be. Most people would, and even probably a lot of people that have lower volumes than you are doing.
Yeah.
They have 3 income streams, and you're saying, I'm just going to stick to 1 income stream and be really good at it intentionally. Yeah, it takes discipline to not get sucked into all the shiny. Hey, let me ask you this. Is there a point where you, like you said, the KiwiSaver, is there a point in your mind that you've already set that when I get to here, certain size, certain teams, would you put that on the table?
Yeah, I reckon maybe once we have like 5+ brokers doing good numbers, like 5+ mortgage brokers doing really good numbers.
What's the average broker doing in New Zealand? Because I had somebody on from New Zealand, but it was many years ago. And I'm wondering, like, what does an average broker do in New Zealand?
I don't actually know. It's funny. I asked those questions. The data's not like as freely available as it seems to be in like
Other
Australia,
countries?
Canada, US. But I feel like, well, I'll tell you this. When I was looking at starting, I asked somebody in the industry, the guy I went to high school with, like whether I should do my own brokerage or work at another one. And he said, look, man, best case scenario in your first year in your own, you're going to do 15 mil. And like you work in somebody else's brokerage, you might do like 20 as like a really exceptional first year. And I feel like sort of that 20, well, yeah, I think like that 20 to 25 seems to be where people like average out in New Zealand.
Yeah. I just did a quick AI search. I don't trust AI because I did some AI on you and it came back completely false. So I said, oh, congrats. And he's like, no, that's not me, man. And so it says 18 to 25 million is average production
Oh, that was a
in.
good guess there.
So yeah, so you're close. Like, if you don't mind, when did you start and what have you done in production since you started in the last 12 months?
So I started in January 2025. And in the last 12 months, the company, which isn't entirely me, has done, what did I say, 116 million?
121, I think you told me.
121 total since I started. That start period was a pretty slow 3 months, 4 months. But yeah, 116 million in the last 12 months.
That's a very rapid incline or increase. So where did the business come from? Like, how did you build this 118? Because it's top 0.001% of brokers in Canada would be in the 100 million range. Like, it would be 1 in 1,000 for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so to be clear, this is not just me. This is me and Mike, who's a good friend of mine, who's in the business now. But where they came from is Facebook ads, primarily. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the part that's interesting. It's Facebook ads. I do a lot around relationship marketing, referrals, which can be very effective. So I asked you this before you started recording, but did you have experience in Facebook ads or how did you make it work? Because I see a lot of people go into this and they often dump a lot of money, but then they either can't convert, they don't get the leads. Like, how have you been able to make it successful that quickly?
Yeah, I reckon a combination of things, eh? So first one would be, yes, I have experience in Facebook ads and like digital marketing. The second would be those leads that you get through the Facebook ads, no matter how good your marketing is, are still hard to get across the line. Like they're just an ad that they've clicked on Facebook
Yeah.
and they're scrolling. So they're not like super engaged like a referral.
It's not like a referral who said, hey, my buddy Mike told me you're the best. I got to
Yeah.
talk to you. Right.
Yeah. And so I think the next bit was knowing something about digital marketing. And I engaged an agency and I spent a lot of money. I was lucky I exited my last business and had a bit of capital to spend so I could take the risks on the spend. And second thing is sales experience. So like my first 2 jobs for 2 years was a telemarketer, just dialing people all day, every day.
And you're basically doing phone sales now. It's just that
Yeah. 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 Sales on a video call like this. Yeah.
video call, sales call. So if you get 100 leads, how many of that would actually turn into business for you? Like what would turn into apps and what apps would turn into closings?
Yeah. Again, I'm not exceptional at tracking this.
Yeah, that's okay. I just give me your generals. I guess I'm just giving people a sense of what's possible. Yeah.
Maybe like 25% of leads turn into apps, and then
Okay.
like 60 to 70 settle. Turn into apps. Maybe like 70 to 80 of the apps settle, actually.
And are these leads primarily because there's a big refinance boom or what do they call a big bank switch or something that's happened in New Zealand in the last
Yeah, they are
few years?
primarily refinance leads, yes.
Yes. So it's refinance leads. Are they people that I'm trying to again translate for Canada. Are they people that are looking for more money or they just have a mortgage that's up for renewal?
Yeah, big combination, eh? Everything from people who want, like, we call it like a top up in New Zealand for like renovation loan, or they've got other debt elsewhere and they're consolidating it. It's a very common one. Sometimes they're like just chasing a cash incentive. So like the banks are offering cash for people to switch over from one bank to another. Sometimes like getting interest only extensions on their property portfolio. So often clients will have interest only and go to their bank to get it, it expires and they'll go to the bank to get it renewed. And then the bank will say, nah, we can't do that. And it's like, okay.
In New Zealand, in Canada, I think Australia too, the US has these really long terms, 15, 30, 25, 30-year mortgages. In New Zealand, it's shorter like Canada, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. So in New Zealand, like the 30-year sort of mortgage terms, but then the like period that you fix your rate for is like between 6 months and 5 years.
What is predominantly the most popular?
1 to 3, possibly 1. 1 is the most popular in our business. So I ran the numbers and it almost always makes sense to fix for 1 if your cash flow can handle the negative upswing.
So basically, most of it's refis, and we call them equity takeout loans or renewal loans or switching them into interest-only
Yeah.
payments.
Yeah.
And you're predominantly selling one-year terms. And so again, every market's going to be very different. There's most of the people listening to this we do have people Australia, New Zealand, but bulk of our customers or listeners are in North America. What would you typically, again, if you're comfortable sharing, what do you think you need to spend in order to generate those 25 leads to close those 15 mortgage applications? And again, your copy, it's a lot of things are going to factor this, but I'm just curious what that would look
Yeah. And like the market's going to factor in it as well, right? New Zealand's not a less developed market than Canada. But let's just look at the numbers. So I spent 10 grand on Facebook ads last month. Okay, so we didn't have a great month last month. We did 9.3 in 32 loans. They call it 32 loans when there's like splits on the loans that
Yeah.
the clients have. So that's not accurate. So let's just say it was like 18 deals at 500K each, and we spent 10 grand last month. That's probably a bit high. You probably shouldn't be spending that much. That's about what, 500? Still not bad. $500 cost per acquisition.
Right. Okay. So $500 a file. And then you had mentioned you're using like an agency that's helping you, right? Back to like, that's a whole other skill to be able to do Facebook well. And I used to do it a long time ago, but it's changed so much that it's a different skill set than just selling a mortgage or, and selling telecom or anything else.
Yeah. So I engaged an agency right at the start, and he was good, but not quite doing some of the things that I wanted to do. And so, yeah, I now manage it primarily myself. I engage different freelancers now and then to like come up with new ad concepts or do new landing pages or whatever. But yeah, primarily I manage it myself.
Initially, you said you had an agency and then
An
how you
agency.
take
Yeah.
it over.
Yeah.
Okay. That's incredible. So it seems to me like you put $1 in and you get, I don't know what the top line is, but like you're probably getting $5 out or something. What's the thing that limits you from turning it in from 118 million to 240 million? Is there just not enough leads?
No, we will do that. We'll definitely do that in the next 12 to 18 months.
Well, I guess then it just becomes an ops play where you need to add people and support around it.
Yeah, that is the limiting factor. Because we've now got case studies, right? We've got Mike, who is a friend of mine, ex-banker, and maybe that's what ChatGPT picked up his details. So he started, I've been running for 6 months. He jumped in, and like in the last 6 months, he's done $154,000 take-home pay. And his salary at the bank was about 110K plus like a small 10K bonus. So he's pretty much tripled. And that doesn't account for trail, the compounding effect of. So yeah, just in the last 6 months, he's done that. So we've now got the case studies of the successful, and I'm about to launch another one for my cousin who joined up as a new to industry broker. He's just done his first 2 months. He's submitted 7.5 million applications. I don't know, had about 4 million approved and about 1 million settled. And so we've now got the case studies, and we've now got brokers keen to join us. And now it's like, okay, now we just want to choose the people that we think will succeed the most within the platform. But the challenge now is going to be ops. Like we provide a lot of support to Mike and Cam and myself. Like we've got a team of 4 in the Philippines right now, and we've got a credit manager onshore in the office. And so, yeah, it's going to be just scaling that operational engine.
Let's talk about closing leads from Facebook, because if anybody wants to go on that path, what is some of the things you've learned about closing these? Like how quick do you follow up? How many times do you touch them? Over what time period do you find that creates the higher likelihood that they'll actually, convert into an app?
So all the stuff you hear, if you listen to, like, I see an Alex Hormozy book behind you, right? So if you listen to Alex Hormozy, like call them within a minute, like 5x is the likelihood of converting, etc. And all of that is true. But I'm also constantly surprised by how, like, because I come from a different industry, I come from telco. I'm constantly surprised by how forgiving people are when you don't reach out to them. Like sometimes we'll reach out to leads the next day or the day after, be like, so sorry, we've been really busy with clients, and there's still a deal there, and they're still happy to chat with you. But I'd say the key thing is you need to have either done sales or you need some strong sales coaching. And so I did another podcast where I was asked the same question. He's actually my like dedicated coach. Like I do one-on-one sessions with him and stuff. And like the thing he identified was me and one other in the group who are doing really well with Facebook ads. Both come from like sales backgrounds and sales trainers as well. And so I think just being really strong at sales or getting some coaching on it, which is why I'm building the business in this way where we coach people to do it, is really important. And if I had to say the 3 things, it's you're calling somebody, right? And so I don't know if you said it during the podcast or before when we were chatting. It's not like Jim, the real estate agent, who's your mate, has recommended you. And, these people are really looking forward to speaking with you. Like, they've filled out a quiz on Facebook or a form on Facebook. They're obviously interested, or they wouldn't have filled out the form, but they're not like committed to working with you, like someone who's coming from a referral. So you need to show them that you're like hungry, enthusiastic, and good at your job. And like the first two, you need to show them in like the first 5 seconds of the call and keep showing them. And then the next one, probably the first 5 minutes of the call, like good at your job. You need to be able to communicate to them without just telling them how great you are.
Right.
You have to ask the right questions.
Yeah, I'm pretty great. Like, you just ask my kids. I mean, they tell you. I don't know. They might. Some days they would. Some days they wouldn't. It depends on the day. Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's a different model, but it's absolutely a valid model.
Yeah, there's so many people out there screaming for good advice and not getting it.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. So you said you have come from a sales background. You have coaching that you're getting in real time, because selling mortgages is different than selling telecom. There's nuance to it. And then relatively quick on the leads, but then fast building rapport and showing that you're competent so that they're willing to proceed with is also critical, right?
Yeah, that's right. And then I guess one mistake people make is they treat the cold leads the same way they treat a referral lead. So like they'll have a 10-minute chat with them. And in fact, I did this when I started my business because I'd listened to a lot of your stuff, and like a lot. I mean, like, I hate to think, it would be cool if Spotify could actually tell me how many episodes of yours I listened to. And one of the guys on there had been doing ads, I think. So I got some good value stuff out of his. But one of the common things that you talk about is like
the discovery call. That's kind of the key thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So doing that discovery call, which is typically like a 10, 15-minute call, right? Is that the very first call that you call the discovery call? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then most brokers, as far as I understand from your podcast, and I might be wrong, but most brokers in New Zealand as well, will then just send a client a link where they fill out all of their information. Like, I'm going to send you a link and you fill out your income, expenses, assets, liabilities. We call it a fact find in New Zealand. That was crushing my conversions, stopping there. So what I started doing was finishing the discovery call and then going, cool, now let's go through the nitty gritty shit. Let's get your age, your employment history, your income, expenses, assets, liabilities. So we spend an hour on that first call with clients if they're a right fit. So, you check in the
first 10 minutes helps you determine if there's a fit, and then you'll spend the rest of the time building the application.
Yeah.
So that improves your conversion significantly, you'd say?
Insanely, yeah.
And so how many leads would you be saying you're getting a month right now from your $10,000 spend?
A lot. Maybe 200 to 300.
200 to 300 leads. Who else calls them? You and Mike?
Mike and Cam now, and just starting to call them as Claire, our new broker. I'm trying to do no more.
How many were you doing?
I really tapered off as soon as Mike started. So when I first started this, I was going to build a sort of more traditional brokerage, right? Which is like me, team of maybe like 3 offshore support and 1 credit, and write as much as I could. But then once Mike started, I sort of focused on getting him up to speed. He very quickly was doing better than me. And then I was like, okay, we can do this other thing, which is building the actual brokerage. So how many am I calling? Literally none now. How many was I calling? Back when I was calling like full time, or like dealing with clients full time, I was spending way less. So I probably had maybe 80 leads a month, and I was calling all of them.
Right. Okay. And what do you have for support? Again, because your business model is different. How many support people do you have? You got a salesperson. You're sort of the marketing department by the sounds of it. So what else do you have to help you guys fund this many mortgages?
So we've got a team of 3 support people in the Philippines, and 1 ops manager over there, and 1 credit person in New Zealand. But it's worth noting that team should be doing way more than what we're doing now. Like, we've grown that team recently.
Okay, so that team wasn't what got you to the 121 million. That's the team to the 240 million.
Yeah, probably. Maybe a couple more, but yeah. Actually, no, that team should actually easily do 240 million. Sorry. That team plus we now have 3 brokers onshore plus me. Yeah, that team actually should easily do 240.
What is a credit person or credit manager? What does that mean?
That's a good question.
Because I'm sure you're using language for something that
Yeah.
What's the translation on that, right?
Maybe loan writer.
Underwriter, they understand loan programs and underwriting guidelines. We call it underwriter. It could be a
Underwriter,
I think
yeah.
the US processor, they call it. Do they underwrite or do they review all files or just some?
Just some. And this is a work in progress because she only started maybe this time last month. So the current thing is me and Mike just both have a habit of just doing more and more complicated deals because we find them interesting, I guess. And so just all the more complicated ones we'll send off to her. Then we've got like the sort of simple deals, which would be like, husband and wife, salary and wages. The offshore team will carry them the whole way through.
Right. That makes sense. This is very cool. So what's next for you? Where do you plan to go? You want to increase the production. What's after that?
It's interesting, and this is not the reason I arranged the podcast with you, but since arranging it, probably build something like BRX actually.
Right. Oh, that's cool. So you create a brokerage model. Are you going to want to generate leads for them or are they going to
Yes.
generate their own leads?
No, we'll generate them for them. So I think that's the biggest blocker for brokers being good.
But there's going to have to be some, like you said, they have no sales background. They either have to have really good coaching or a sales background because they still got to pick up the phone and build trust fast and build rapport. It's a learnable skill, but it is something that's important for you to create conversion.
100%. And that's the business, really. Having the leads, providing the training that they need to have the right conversations with them, and then the platform that they need to, get them processed efficiently from like a tech perspective.
We should definitely chat later about this. I could tell you what we're doing and whatever you want to, beg, borrow, steal, you can for what you're doing.
Yeah, I would love that. I'd love that.
We can do that on a separate call though. So how many mortgage brokers, on to that point, how many mortgage brokers are there in New Zealand?
I think like 2,500.
Okay. And what's the population?
Like 5 million?
So 2,500 mortgage brokers for 5 million people. I think we have somewhere between 20 active, maybe 30,000 mortgage brokers in Canada with 36 million.
Oh, okay. So you've got like a higher density broker to person by the sounds of it.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like everybody and their dog's a mortgage broker. Depending on some provinces, how difficult is it to get a mortgage license in New Zealand?
Really simple. You have to do a like certificate thing. They call it a level 5 in financial services. And then New Zealand's maybe slightly different to other countries in that you have to be financial advisor first and then you specialize in mortgages.
Okay. So there's financial advisor training as well as part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's quite rudimentary. It took me like 2 months to complete my certificate, fully online, self-led, while having a young daughter and figuring out how I was going to launch this business.
Well, the one thing I think most people, especially if you've got a business background, and so you understand the cost of starting most businesses. In the telecom business, you had investment, but this business, the barrier to entry is low and the cost is low, right?
Yeah.
So your psychology in spending $10,000 a month on Facebook ads is like, that's nothing. Like I'm sure compared to what you were spending before, and you can trace a direct line between I spend X and I make Y, where there's a lot of stuff in businesses where you spend X and you can't even know if maybe you're making Y, you might be making Z or some other letter 5 or 6 lines down. And so it's a great business. It's just a lot of people don't understand business. You think like this is an investment. I'm going to invest in this in order to put in $1 to get out 5, right?
Yeah, it is a great business. Like it's an insane business. It's so simple.
Yeah. Where do you want to be in a year from now? What do you think? What does it look like 12 months from now?
That's challenging, one, because my wife's pregnant. So we're having another kitty in
Congratulations.
October. Yeah, no, thank you. And so that could throw like a slight spanner in the works. But 12 months from now, I would say needing to move office in New Zealand, which is basically like a team of 10 to 12 in New Zealand, probably a similar size team offshore, and like everyone riding from 5 to 15 mil per month. Not obviously brand new starters.
50 to 100 million a month in production. So 600 million to $1 billion would be what you want to do.
Big numbers when you put it like that. But yeah,
That's amazing, man.
there'll be a lot of new starters in that as well, right? Who, they'll be ramping. So they'll be doing nothing for the first 2 months and then start scaling from there.
Right. Yeah. Your business model will then be making sure that the ads scale in proportion to your team, because part of the challenge is going to be, does the cost per lead go up? What you're spending 20 grand per month, are you not getting 300 leads? Are you only getting 400 for that spend, right?
Yeah.
Like that'll be something to monitor for sure. And then what happens if the ads, I probably shouldn't ask this, but I'm gonna.
No, go do it.
What's your plan if the ads slow down? Because I find with ads, they can be very algorithm change. You said there's incentive programs right now. What if the banks pull back on those? What's the plan for growth if that happens?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, you go through algorithm changes. When you're deep in running ads. I reckon people can obsess about that, like start asking questions around like, oh, are your ads cooked today? Are your ads not working today? And it's like, I reckon there's a lot of like natural stuff that happens. And then there's algorithm changes as well. There was a big one last year for Facebook. But the thing is, there's so much fat in it. Like if it costs me 500 per conversion now, that's on the high side, right? Like we've ramped our spending because we're planning on growing. So just like that team should be doing more business than we have historically, the ad spend should be doing more business than we have. We can afford to double our ad spend and
Still be okay. All right. You got margin there. You got room.
there's margin there. But also the next step is increasing our social organic content. So like increasing the brand, which should in theory reduce our cost per lead.
That sounds very Alex Hormozi. Use ads to get going and then build the brand around it.
This whole business is very Alex Hormozi. This whole
Yeah.
business is very Alex Hormozi. I feel very lucky that I sold my last business when I did. Alex Hormozi dropped $100 million offers. I listened to that, read all that. Didn't really get that much out of $100 million leads, funnily enough. And then the $100 million money models, where he explained money models, was like something I'd been trying to figure out in my own head, but I couldn't.
Yeah. He's very good at simplifying things. Hey, just you can go, oh, it makes so much
good.
sense.
So yeah, I just feel like it's an insane time to be running a business, particularly if we've got like other business experience, to be starting a new one when you've got like free consulting from Hormozi. You got Claude that can do like most of the tech stuff for you. Yeah, it's a cool time to be running a business.
Yeah, that's amazing. Where can people find you online?
Nathan Morgan French, thegoodbroker.co.nz is probably the best place. Or if you search Nathan Morgan French on LinkedIn, you'll see me.
The Good Broker. Okay. Amazing, man. Well, hey, it's been great to get to connect with you. Make sure you send me links to your socials and stuff, and I'll put them all in the podcast show notes so anybody wants to track you down, they can. Thanks for being on the show. It's been great to connect. And we'll definitely have to circle back to your conversation about your brokerage stuff. I'm happy to chat.
Yeah. Be really keen to chat about that.
Hey, thanks again for listening, and hopefully you found this episode insightful. I know that a lot of people have played with Facebook ads, and I don't know if it's just a country of origin thing or Nathan is just an absolute genius at this. There are probably people in Canada doing this. I suspect it's a small percentage of people that have success with it, though. But still, kudos to him for being able to pull this off and make it work. As I always say, there's no problem in your mortgage business that someone else hasn't already solved. Your problem is finding the solution when you need it. Hopefully, this episode provides some of those answers. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.